It's now September, and I'm at Gabbiano Quarry down in Ohio. This is one of the most popular diving locations in the entire Midwest, and for good reason. This whole quarry is designed as a playground for scuba divers. From airplanes to cars to even school buses, they have all been sunk here for the amusement of divers. The school bus in particular has my attention for one reason. All of these trout are not sitting here for no reason. This school bus is famous for its trout feeding. If you're brave enough, you bring down fish food and let it go to unleash a trout tornado. You better watch your fingers, watch your ears, and watch your face, because these guys bite and they mean it. After watching my friend go, I get ready because it's my turn. I haven't done this in years, and last time I did, I got bit pretty good. But before I could get ready, this channel catfish had other ideas and stole the bag outright. Through all the chaos, one fish caught my attention, and that was a brook trout, which then got me thinking. I've never seen a wild brook trout. What can I do to change that? Where would I need to go to see brook trout out in the wild? So after a couple weeks of research, it's now October and I'm heading north. But this isn't north enough. We need to go even further to the biggest of the Great Lakes. Lake Superior is the second largest lake in the world, and it truly feels ancient, wild, and untouched. Of all the Great Lakes, Lake Superior is probably the one that divers explore the least. I was certainly excited to find a gap in the cliffs and to get ready to do my very first dive into Lake Superior to see what it's really like to be down there. This doesn't even seem like part of the Great Lakes, at least from what I've experienced in others. This truly feels like a land forgotten by time. I frequently became lost as to where I truly was. It seemed, at moments, with the crystal clear water and rock formations, that I was diving in the ocean. These large rock formations still have their scars from when the glaciers rolled through. These smaller rocks, however, were brought here when this, many years ago, was a riverbed. I couldn't help but follow these old riverbeds and imagine them above land many thousands of years ago. It was mesmerizing and awe-inspiring to travel through these ancient rivers and canyons forgotten by time. But one thing was amiss. Where are all the fish? I'm not seeing anything around here. The crystal clear water was a double-edged sword. We had fish here, but they were incredibly shy. What you're looking at here are whitefish, probably about 100 feet away, but they want nothing to do with me. Because the water is so clear and there's nowhere really to hide, there's no way to get close enough to these guys to film. I spent hours watching and waiting, hoping these guys would change their mind and come in for a quick look, but they never did. Thankfully, there were others. You just had to look close to find them. This is a new species for me, a slimy sculpin, which is different from the molted sculpin I typically encounter in the St. Clair River. He's an extremely rare sight in shallow water. These guys like to hang out far beyond the range of diving. With Lake Superior itself a bust, I decided to change tactics and go into the rivers. The brook trout I'm after prefer highly oxygenated waters, and what's a better way to oxygenate the waters than waterfalls. But am I really going to try and dive directly under a waterfall? Well, that didn't take much effort to find. What we are looking at is a brook trout. And within moments of looking, dozens more seem to appear out of nowhere. To fishermen and casual observers, their colors and patterns don't seem to make much sense. But when you see them in the water, it becomes abundantly clear why they look the way they do. They even act dramatically different from rainbows and browns I'm used to seeing. Just look at how they spread their pectoral fins to push themselves further down to the bottom to stay in place. It didn't take long for me to realize this wasn't the best spot to film these guys, because I got the attention of someone I'd rather not have the attention of. This northern pike showed up and started scaring away all my brook trout. Clearly, I needed to go someplace else if I wanted to keep filming. So I changed location to this little creek, and within moments of getting in the water, I quickly found even more brook trout willing to get their picture taken. Here, the brook trout were the undisputed predator. Anytime they showed up, all the little fish quickly ran away. But there was one fish the brook trout liked having around, and that was the white suckers. You see, brook trout and white suckers have a symbiotic relationship where the brook trout are heavily dependent on the white suckers in order to feed. White suckers dig up aquatic insects which the brook trout can eat. Otherwise, they couldn't reach them. For the most part, the brook trout seem to get along with one another. But because this is October and they're going to be spawning soon, I did witness some territorial displays between brook trout. Here we see two male brook trouts measuring up against one another to determine who is the larger fish. The winner of this contest will be able to control any of the females that come on through in the next couple of weeks. For such high stakes involved in this fight, it is admittedly pretty low energy. I found brook trout to be incredibly curious of divers, and so they spend just as much time looking at me as dealing with one another. Eventually, they broke off the fight and turned their attention to something more interesting, my hand. They were incredibly curious of my moving fingers and came up and nibbled on my fingers. After a few passes, I got to do something I never imagined I'd be able to do. I got to pet a wild brook trout. This stream was great, but admittedly, it was a warm water stream. I wanted to see if a cold water one would be much different. So I switched locations and went here. This stream is spring-fed and is very cold, barely above 40 degrees. And with a different kind of stream, we came across different kinds of fish. This is one I wanted to film for a while. We are looking at a coho salmon. These salmon are trying to get out of the current to save their strength to move further upriver to spawn. For them, this is the end of their journey. Within a week or two, they will reach their spawning grounds where they will reproduce and die. The male's face is rapidly changing to have a large, protruding jaw, which it will use to fight off other males for the right to spawn. Unlike the king salmon in Lake Michigan, these coho in Lake Superior are able to naturally replenish themselves in these cold water streams. Strangely, they appeared to be the only fish that lived in this stream whatsoever. But before long, I did find something new. This guy at first glance almost looks like a brook trout, but the moment he turned, I realized he wasn't. Hang on a minute. He has the face, fins, and spots of a lake trout. What we are looking at here is a splake trout. He's a hybrid between the brook trout and the lake trout. Splake trout were first introduced by Fish and Wildlife in the 1970s. They are pretty interesting as far as hybrids go because they can naturally reproduce. I certainly wasn't expecting to run into one of these guys, but I'm kind of disappointed I couldn't find one in their spawning colors. This fish is normally found in lakes, which made me curious as to why he would be in this river. So I decided to follow him for a little bit, and before long, I actually followed the river until it met Lake Superior, which gave me some ideas. Maybe I should make one more dive into Lake Superior itself to see what I can find. This certainly isn't the Lake Superior I left behind from my last dive. Gone are the large rock formations and ancient stream beds, but instead a sandy bottom dominated by grass. There really wasn't much going on in here. In fact, I became so bored that I was even filming the snails, just so I had something to show for my effort. Aquatic snails are not my thing, so if anyone knows what species this is, leave it in the comments. But as the dive was wrapping up, I had to go back through the weed bed, and as I did, I discovered something amazing that made this dive one of the best of the season. Well, looks like I found my splakes and spawning colors. But why are they here? Why are they all gathered in this spot? So, as it turns out, Lake Superior is far too warm for these guys. So they have to hang out right at the mouth of this cold water stream in order to find any water that is cold enough for their needs. So because of this refuge of cold water, we have hundreds of coho salmon and splake trout that just want to hang out right here. I normally don't dive the mouths of rivers because the water is generally too dirty, but now I'm going to have to make a habit of exploring them whenever I get the chance because this is simply incredible. I was thrilled to find one splake trout. I could have never imagined I would find hundreds of them on a single dive. Little would I know at the time, but this would end up being my last dive for the season, but it wasn't by choice. As soon as I left the water, I made plans for more dives. I then got thinking, I have one more scuba tank left that still has air. What if I come back through and do this dive at night to see what I could find? Unfortunately though, I got to this location, but for whatever reason, I was too distracted to get into the water. As the lights danced in the sky, the temperature finally dropped too low, ending the dive season. And what a dive season it was. I made some serious improvements in filming and editing too. Just compare the first episode to the last. We covered a lot this year. From shiners to sturgeon in the St. Clair River, to uncovering the beauty of the marshes and swamps of the Pinery in St. John's, to exploring rivers and streams in southeast Michigan, to the far reaches of Lake Superior. I visited and explored places close to home to way off the beaten path. I filmed everything from the common to endangered to even the undiscovered. For all this effort, for all this exploring, I barely made a dent in the tens of thousands of miles of waterways. I take great pride in the fact that many of these locations had never been filmed prior to my series. The work is far from done, not even close. It's a task so big you couldn't accomplish it in one lifetime. That is something I hope some of you can do. I really hope some of you are inspired to go out and look. I really hope, for all this, that I've opened some eyes up. Scuba divers, the lakes are more than just shipwrecks. There is plenty to be seen that you don't need to go deep for. Some of the best dives I did this year were done with a mask and snorkel in knee-deep water. I hope some of you consider giving a little river a try this season. Fishermen, there's more to our lakes and rivers than just walleye. There's no such thing as a trash native fish. They all play a part in the food chain and should be respected. I hope some of you now appreciate the humble shiners, chubs, and suckers a little more. And the last group I hope to reach to the most, those who just watch my videos. You can do this. The Great Lakes are waiting for you, and all you need to do is get a mask and a wetsuit and get in the water. All of this and more is waiting for those who explore. This dive season is over, but another one begins. By the time this is released, it's already May. A new dive season has begun. The question is, will this be the year you dive in? I really enjoyed making this series, and I hope everyone enjoyed watching. I really appreciate those who have stuck with this since the beginning. If you liked the video, please consider leaving a like, comment, and consider subscribing. Stay safe, dive often, and we will see you on the next one.